We're recording. All right, it's time for another Bull in the Basement, and we're joined by an old friend who I haven't seen in forever. And a little bird flew right by me and said that this gentleman was going to be in Western New York this weekend, in particular in East Aurora at Knox Farm State Park. Am I right, Steve Christie?
With you, I might add. I'll be with you.
That is correct. That is correct. For Borderland Festival. So now, how did you get involved in this? Are you friendly with the organizers? Do you have bands in it that you like? Like, how did this happen? I mean, this is not even a Bills weekend. Weirdly.
Well, we're making it into a Bills weekend.
That's right.
I have become friends with a few of the people there over the past few weeks. Jennifer Brazil being the head honcho running the whole show. We've had numerous conversations. And obviously, most of these conversations were, how do we bring about a great music crowd into a Bills road game against Miami? And I found over the years that there's mutual admiration between musicians and athletes. And we discussed and concluded that it has to do with performing in front of people, live audiences. And whether you're kicking a football or playing an instrument, you know when you mess up. And in my case, everybody knows when I messed up. Pretty obvious. Musicians sometimes are obviously better at hiding that sort of thing, whereas I would never be able to get away with it. But I think part of that is just to be able, the ability to perform in front of, major audiences. And that's something that I admire. And the fact that, these musicians at this level that we'll see at Borderland, they'll go out and do an hour and a half gig and flawless and be able to do it in front of so many people. And to cover so much material, their own music. And, I just think it's incredible. It's incredible.
Yeah. Now, are you familiar with any of the bands that are going to be taking the stage?
I am. And, I'm kind of a deadhead now. My wife, over the years, has kind of turned that corner for me. And I finally, listened to her. And what a great positive vibe it is. We've seen a number of shows together. We do a lot of music festivals down here in Florida. Even despite COVID, we're able to do so many things outside down here. That's one of the reasons why we moved down here permanently. And with that being said, we've seen a lot of bands. I listen to Talk, TAUK, one of the bands that's playing there. I listen to them a lot in the car. Great bass line. It's kind of got a jam band vibe, but it's still got kind of a groovy hook to it. And a buddy of mine, in fact, a cousin of mine, is in a band called Never Been. So that's how I got pulled into this originally through Michael Connor, and now it's kind of expanded into the pair of us hosting a tailgate or whatever you want to call it to cheer on the Bills against Miami. Yeah, now I have to say this. I got to say this.
Yeah.
There's a bridge into this. I was hoping to do this after we beat Pittsburgh, and I'm sure the rest of Western New York is saying the same thing.
For sure.
And hey, Pittsburgh's Pittsburgh.
Yep.
They're never backing down from anybody. It doesn't matter where, it doesn't matter when. And they just plugged away. And Ben Roethlisberger showed that, at his age, he can still do it. He got it done.
It's pretty crazy. I mean, you have just mentioned like 8 different things. I have a legal pad in front of me with all the things I want to talk to you about. But you mentioned like 8 of them just in the past 2 minutes. One of the reasons why the Steelers are always so good happens to be their coach, and the William and Mary connection in the NFL, especially with the Bills and obviously with Mike Tomlin, is pretty remarkable. Can you talk to that between Tomlin and with the Bills, Sean McDermott, obviously, and Marv Levy, and the list goes on and on. It's crazy. Kelso,
Mark Kelso too. Mark and I were fraternity brothers. There's not too many football players out of William and Mary that make it to the pros, or certainly make it, for a long time. I just heard the story about Tomlin when he graduated there. He was a wide receiver, and he went to his receivers coach at the time. Coach's odd name. His name is Zabig Kepa. And he says, Coach Kepa, now that I'm out of school, not too sure what I want to do. And Coach Kepa said, well, Mike, you may want to be a coach. You may want to take up coaching. Well, what great advice he got from a William and Mary coach. And then, then we get this scenario, of course, where the first time they went head to head, they flew, I think it was in Pittsburgh, they flew our old coach up because our coach was there. Jimmy Laycock was there 39 years. I mean, that's incredible for any coach in any sport, in any position, certainly in college. The longevity there, that's so rare. And so Coach Laycock was up there with Tomlin and McDermott, and that's pretty special. That's pretty special. There are other coaches that are over time that have been, around the league from William & Mary, but not guys that were teammates. And I think that was pretty cool. And then, like you said, for that reason, though, you can't count Pittsburgh out, regardless of the roster. Look at their head coach.
Yeah.
He's already won it. He's got a great track record already. And I have so much respect for both coaches, but it is very special for us when they go head to head. And that's also why, as a Bills fan, we know we can't take the Steelers lightly, ever. So it's the Dolphins this weekend. We'll get into football in a second, but Borderland is why you're here. Are you going both Saturday and Sunday, or are you just going to be with me on Sunday? Nobody cares to see me. They want to see you in the game, obviously. But we'll be there for the whole thing. We're going
awesome.
for the whole shebang. We'll be in the RV, and this is what we do most of the time for entertainment anyway. And we're just so happy to be able to go up to Western New York at this time of the year. It's 95 today here. Yeah. So, it's nice to get up north and then catch up with a lot of family and friends. So, it's just going to be another great music festival.
BorderlandFestival.com, the Revivalists, Jason Isbell, amongst the two headliners really of the entire festival. What is it? Pigeons Playing Ping Pong? Is that the name of the band? If I'm right, I forgot, but it's some bizarre name like that. A couple of great local bands, Leroy Towns, friendly with them. They're playing Saturday. I believe Folk Faces are on the bill as well. Another great local band. It's a great collection of, as you mentioned, Steve, like jam band, country, alt rock, bluegrass, Americana, a little bit of everything. And the key word here is vibe. Because it's just this friendly, everybody getting along, no hangups whatsoever, just a chill weekend. And oh, by the way, the weather looks like it's going to be absolutely perfect, sunny, low 80s both days. So BorderlandFestival.com for tickets. I, for some reason, thought, and correct me if I'm wrong, but did you manage bands at one time?
I did for a little while. I was helping a few bands out, and I kind of took the approach, having done some research as to how other managers, what their responsibilities were, what their approach was, how they did things, and I decided, you know what, I'm going to treat this as a team, more of a coach, kind of bring that atmosphere of, look, we're all in it together. I did my very best, but at the end of the day, I don't know. I'm not saying it wasn't for me, but at times it felt like I was a friend, and other times I felt like there was a little bit of babysitting going on. And those that know, they know what I'm talking about. And I'm like, hey, what am I doing? Right. But I do love music, and I love being that close to the musicians that way, where I could see things develop, I can see things happen. And I had one band for a while, Big Leg Emma, and to see them perform live at the Blue Heron Festival, that was a real thrill for us, just to have something to do with it, just to be able to get out there and enjoy the music that way. But I'm, kind of like the Bills, I'm coaching. I'm a football coach at the high school, but I like being a fan. I mean, I enjoy being a spectator now, Bills Mafia and all that. I kind of like that angle. And then, I can separate and be a high school football coach here down in Florida. And it's good enough for me. That's the vantage point I like right now.
You see with Steve Christie on Bull in the Basement, you see lots of players now, and probably this has been trending, I don't know, maybe in the last 10 years or something, pregame warm up. They got their headphones in, whether they're wireless or not. They're listening to something warming up. Now, back when you played, you would have to have those headphones with the little, the spongy little things over the speakers over your ears, and you're probably listening to like a cassette Walkman. But what would you have been listening as your sort of pump up music pregame, if that was the case back then?
I didn't have a whole lot, maybe in the car. I grew up in Oakville outside of Toronto. I love the Cult, listen to the Cult all the time. I claim that at one point that I was the one that brought the Cult band, like the music itself, to William & Mary, because they were in REM and that sort of thing at the time, which was also very cool. But I'm like, here, check these guys out. The frat ate it up. But everything like in that genre, to even bagpipe music. I mean, whatever would get me going. But once I got to the stadium, I was, my routine was, and I wasn't that superstitious. but I'd always read the game day magazine. I kind of see who we're playing, who's on there.
You waited. Wait. You waited till Sunday at 10 o'clock in the morning to find out who you were playing?
Yeah, like I knew who were playing, but it's not like I don't have to game plan anybody. I knew who the recruiters were. I knew that, if they had a decent rush on one side or the other, fine. But I don't. Hey, kick the ball through the uprights, man. Keep it easy. That's what I to do anyway.
Hey, are you good health wise? Everything's good with you?
Yeah, pretty good.
Awesome.
Had a little cancer scare a few years back, but yeah, I've changed my diet and changed a few habits along the way. And now that I'm almost 54, I think I hate to say it, but you wisen up with age. No, not necessarily 100%. There's still a kid in here somewhere, but yeah, I mean, it's thanks for asking, but it's one of those things that I wasn't going to make much of a deal of. Except I didn't want my buddies to go through it. So, and like I will now, I just encourage everybody, if you suspect there's something wrong, get an endoscopy, get a colonoscopy, just get checked. And so you don't have to deal with what I did. That's it.
For sure. Have you mentioned Oakville, sort of in Toronto, where you grew up. Have you been able to get to Canada at all?
I will be able to get up there in October. I'm going to go up see my mom, but that's really been about it. It's been situations like this where we've had to use technology, and had a couple of nights there with my aunt and uncle in St. Catharines, the Kleins, and we've done a lot of Zoom meetings along the way. And I think it's been kind of an eye-opening experience in the sense that so many of my friends now are working from home. And they can do that and conduct their business without a big corporate building and without all the big meetings, and it's been weird. It's we're in real estate down here, so obviously there's certain things we can do from here, but there's other things that you still have to go over there. You have to be out there and do things. So but getting to Canada and the border, that's been a no-go for a long time.
Yeah. It's a bummer for everybody here, obviously. I mean, we go there primarily for entertainment. Canadians come here for entertainment, same thing in shopping and all of that. And it's really infringed on both sides of the border, I think, economically. But that's for another day. Tell folks how you went, because you were a soccer player turned football, right?
Yes.
So when did that opportunity first arise for you? And then you took it and obviously ran with it and had huge successes doing it.
Well, we were basically, I started kicking because I was a soccer player and played for various teams in the area, and then kind of was slowly going through the provincial ranks and then Canadian junior ranks. And but I started kicking and punting in high school because we literally didn't have any. So the gym coach, Tom Johnson at the time, who was a football coach, said, "Look, I really want you to come out. We need a kicker. We have a punter." This is my junior year. He says, "We have a punter, but we need somebody to kick." And my parents finally signed the waiver saying that you can only practice once a week. You can only kick. I don't want you to do anything else, because I had soccer practice every other night or games or whatever. So long story short, my senior year, I kicked and punted, and I get a call from another soccer coach just outside of Hamilton, Bill Watson, who went to William Mary. And he says, "Look, I need a center back, but I might be able to help you with this football thing." And that's all I heard. I said, "Well, okay, we'll see what happens." And so I was out visiting a school in the eastern coast of Canada, out in New Brunswick, called Mount Allison University, where I was going to play soccer and football. And while I was there, my dad calls and says, "You just got offered a full ride for William and Mary through this connection, Bill Watson, who called the soccer coach, Al Albert, who then called the football coach." I mean, this long string of people through soccer that finally ended up in a football scholarship. So yeah, I was very lucky. They had a guy lined up that did both. And last second, he decided to sign at Ohio State. And that was it. They didn't have anyone either really at the time. And that's how this literally unknown kid, and my game film was literally one game.
Wow.
I mean, if you didn't play hockey up there, who's looking at you from the States, really?
Right.
I mean, true story. So here's my one game film. I hope it's enough. And for them, it was. I had to take an SAT. So that was kind of funny, because I went over to the University of Toronto and sat in an arena with 20 hockey players. And we're all mumbling and grumbling, going, "What is a test? And this is ridiculous." And because we didn't use it up there.
Right.
but I hope they all got enough. I got enough to squeak in, so I hope they did too.
I'm assuming you're still a big soccer fan.
Oh yeah, my big team, my favorite team is Glasgow Celtic, and I also follow a handful of other teams, and obviously a bunch of great players around the world. I mean, that's the thing. There's so many leagues now that are just top class. There's so many good teams to watch.
Yeah. Do you ever make it down to Orlando and see any of their games?
No, not yet.
Yeah.
It's a pretty good vibe though.
Yeah.
Women and men, both teams are doing really well. Very successful.
I was gonna say you're close to Tampa. How about that town right now? I mean, between football and hockey and man, holy cow.
Yeah, it's crazy, and I really felt bad for the Lightning the first year they won the Stanley Cup because no one was there. They worked so hard. The league worked so hard to get these games through COVID. This whole bubble thing obviously worked, and then the first year the Lightning won, there was no one there. And then the fact that they came back and won it again, that was incredible. And then of course the Glazers, who own the Bucks, decide, you know what, we'll get Brady and Gronk. Who at first everyone's like, okay, everyone's going to go buy the jerseys and this is going to be great, whatever. But to win the whole thing, and those rings look like a brooch. Like the head of it looks like a watch. I mean, they're massive, just massive. I mean, I don't even know how you wear it, but yeah, I mean, it's been Tampa Bay here. We've kind of taken over from Boston, which is nice in a way. Yeah,
it's great.
It's in our division, I think.
With Steve Christie going to be in town this weekend, Borderland Festival. Yours truly will also be there as well out in East Aurora at Knox Farm State Park. BorderlandFestival.com for tickets. It's a great, remarkable. Do some homework. Go on their website. Look at the lineup. You're going to love it because it's just a chilled, tons of craft beer and vendors, wines, distilleries. I mean, everything you can possibly imagine. And like I said, it's super chill. You bring a camping chair, you just hang out with your pals, you sit out in the hay if you don't have a chair to bring, whatever. It's a blast. So hopefully you can see us. And of course, the watch party is what Steve and I are going to be doing together on Sunday as the Bills take on the Dolphins. So yeah, if you're coming to the festival, you want to watch some music, you want to also keep one eye on the TV screen, the other one on your stage. Well, that's a really amazing talent if you can do it. But if you're able to, then you can, or pick one or the other and enjoy your day Sunday. So let's talk a little bit about your Bills career. Pretty remarkable. 10 years with Buffalo after starting with Tampa. Do you still have your creamsicle jersey?
We only wore it once, and the rest of the time we wore the white jerseys. And my rookie jersey, I have my rookie jersey. We had to pay $50 to get it.
What?
Yeah, that's how the Bucks did things back then. I mean, that's just how it was. It wasn't like when I first signed with Buffalo and, Randy Woody Ribbit, the old equipment manager, grabbed me and says, well, what do you need? I go, what do you mean, what do I need? He says, well, look, you're going to need all this stuff for your locker. I'm like, what? Do I have to sign it out? How much does it cost? I was just used to a different setup, and Tampa was, a different deal. And they're like, I remember going in the GM at the time and said, hey, I really like my jersey. And he said, well, it's going to be $50. I'm like, fine, whatever. So most of us paid $50 for our jersey that we wore all camp
right
and during the season. So that's how things were back then.
That's crazy.
All right, but it was nice to get up here. Let's just say that. It was nice to get up here.
Yeah, for sure. Well, close to home too, right? I mean, I'm assuming you had family at every game, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah, or buddies from high school. I mean,
yeah.
A lot of people from Oakville were able to come up to the games, and and plus the Marv Levy connection, and then getting to know Bill Polian, and then obviously my teammates. That was those years were incredible. Even though obviously we know we didn't win, just for me to be able to go to 2 Super Bowls. My last year in Tampa, we were 3-13, and no one's even thinking playoffs. You're just thinking about your job week to week to week. Not that you don't anyway, but when you're winning, you're thinking about, hey, how far can we go? We're in the playoffs. And then, my first playoff game was a comeback game with Frank. So, okay, if they're all going to be like this, maybe I'm not cut out to be a playoff guy. I don't know. Maybe I have to reconsider my move. But, at the end of the day, it was really an honor to be there with those guys and those coaches. And, man, what an experience. Real experience.
And what people always forget. So this is crazy because I did some research on this. So everybody watches the highlights of the comeback game, right? And they know all the touchdowns and Frank and the magic, this, that, and the other thing, and you kicking the game-winning field goal. Everybody forgets that didn't you recover your own onside kick in that game to set up your game-winning field goal? Is that right?
It wasn't to set up the field goal, but it helped get things turned around a little bit. It helped change momentum a little bit. Yeah. But I have to say, I had Mark Pike on one side and Mark Maddox on the other side of me, and they sort of spearheaded into the ball, and it was just sitting there. It's my job to go get it. And without them, I wasn't going to get it. Right. So, I mean, they really did the work, and the ball was sitting there, and I dove in there, and I just kind of curled it underneath me. And then Tasker grabs me. He goes, "Get out of there, man. They're going to kill you." And I'm like, what? Like, I didn't even think about it. I didn't think about that. I was just glad I got the ball.
Right.
And then first thing I did, I went over there and I flipped it to, I think to Woody, and he knew what to do. I said, "Hide this thing. You never know. You never know."
Right. You kicked, if I'm not mistaken, in the coldest game in Bill's history, right? The Raider game when it was like 32 below, right? Were you part? I think you were part of that team. I would have been 92, 93, I thought. No?
Oh, maybe. You know what? At this point, a lot of these games really roll together. I remember a really cool game against the Jets.
Okay.
Where we had to get a field goal at the end. And I remember coming off the field and getting in the locker room and walking into the shower, and Frank Reich was next to me. And I looked down and his feet were blue. I said, "Frank, you better go see the trainer, man. That's not normal." He didn't even feel his feet. Like that's how cold it was.
Yeah.
There's games like that where especially in his position as a backup quarterback, he's not going to be standing next to the heaters like the kicker and punter. Like Chris Moore and I and Adam Linger, we had our little section over there by the last kicking net. The heaters over by the kicking net. Of course it is. But Frank was walking around the whole game, and it's just like, man, that's how. And I don't think it was minus 32, but it was definitely close to minus 20.
Yeah, that's nuts.
And I would marvel at Jim Kelly, like no gloves, nothing, taking that snap down after down after down. I don't know how he did it.
Well, you know what? Brian Moorman did this with me a couple of weeks ago, and I asked him about kicking in cold weather. I said, "Man, your foot must have killed when you kicked basically a rock in, if it's 0 degrees or whatever." I mean, was that he said that he didn't even feel a thing. Was that true for you? Or was
it's so cold you don't feel anything. You're basically muscle memory, and you're not feeling the contact of the ball. So that's where you're really relying on all your experience, your practice, and what you're used to doing. It's as simple as that. It's basically like, I know I'm not going to get touch on the ball that I would normally like. So you just swing away like you normally would, and you hope that the ball doesn't compress either. It's frozen pretty much.
Right.
Well, you just hit as hard as you can and hope it gets. That's really all you can do.
You sort of brought up psychology. There is that thing about the lonely kicker or whatever. And back then there was no such thing as sports psychologists like there are today. So you have a bad game, aside from, keeping your job and getting better the next week. Like, what helped motivate you and get out of perhaps, the funk that you could potentially end up in, because you were kind of flying solo unless you depended, on your punter buddy to help you through it, right? Like what helped you get through those, you didn't have many, but what helped you get through some of those tougher times?
Well, Chris, our backup punter, our punter, Chris Moore, wasn't a kicker. He told me, he says, I really can't kick. So if anything happens to you, I don't know who's going to step in and do it. When Flutie was there, he could drop kick it or kick something. He was until he got there, we really didn't have anybody. And the same thing in Tampa, we didn't have anyone. But back to the sports psychology side of it, my rookie year, I hadn't missed a kick in any of the preseason games. Our first game, we went up to Detroit, and I think I didn't miss any there. So the first time I missed in a game was at home against the LA Rams, and I missed a 32-yarder. And because I'm a rookie and nobody knows me, I got booed. I got booed by everybody. And I realized then and there, if I don't figure this out, then I am gone. I mean, as simple as that. Like, there's no loyalty in that sense. I just got there. They'll bring in the next guy. So basically, either I get a string of kicks and get this thing going, or I'm done. And that's basically what I told myself. I said, pick yourself up. You're not going to make every kick, but what's most important is that you make the next one. And that's how you look at it. Yeah. One kick at a time. And I know it's kind of a cliche, but it's a lot like golf. Like, you don't hit every golf ball perfectly. And even Bruce DeHaye would joke, like, every once in a while, I'd hit a line drive that went through, and he goes, you know what? Next week, no one's going to care because last week it went in. They don't care. It's a line drive in the record book. It's a line drive in the record book. Don't worry about it. So, that's kind of the attitude that we had, and especially in Buffalo with the weather turning, things aren't going to get pretty. Things aren't going to get prettier. It's going to get windy. It's going to get wet. It's going to get cold. And like I said, sometimes you just swing away and you hope the ball makes it there. And that's all you can do. And that's the best you can do.
This is going to be kind of a weird question, and it just came to me. But obviously, you came to the Bills after Scott Norwood. Where did you come from to the Bills? Tampa to the Bills. You kicked in the sombrero where the Super Bowl was, right? Where sadly wide right happened. So I guess my question is, and obviously his kick happened at the very end of a game, right? So was that kick 47 yards? Obviously it's completely pressurized. It's crazy. 47 yards grass. Was that did that come into play at all? I mean, you played there for 2 years. So
he was, Scott really got a hold of the ball. I mean, he hit it really well. He had plenty of distance. He just didn't get that natural curve to the left. The ball just didn't take that normal hook to the left. And the same thing I tell my kickers now. It's like, man, you got to use that to your advantage. It just didn't turn that way. And I got to say this: when I signed with Buffalo, Scott was still there. So we kicked off and hit field goals against each other in minicamp, and that was tough because I quickly realized how much the other guys really respected him, really loved him, and I was the new guy, and that was kind of hard. And then I had to kind of earn that respect as the games went on. And I'll never forget Scott's after the parade and the whole press conference. That was, I mean, if you want your kids to see how a pro athlete handles diversity and a situation like that, arguably the toughest situation you could be in, certainly as a kicker, and then to handle it the way he did, I mean, there was a class act, 110%. And I respect him so much for that, the way he handled it, and he took it on himself. I mean, that was incredible. For
sure. How many tackles did you make in your career? Do you know?
A lot in Tampa. A lot. Not so many in Buffalo. Now, when a kicker makes a tackle, a lot of the times it's a kicker's fault because you didn't get enough hang time, or you didn't put it where you're supposed to. Especially if say for example it's a right corner kick, and your coverage is designed to close everybody in that corner, and you kick it in the middle, or you kick you shank it, whatever. So that's your fault. That's your problem. You better take care of it. And other times it's just not in Buffalo, but with other teams I've been on, you get guys that are on special teams that were starters at big schools, and they want to be, the starting safety or linebacker or whatever, and they're on special teams, and they don't want to be on special teams. And that's when you're making tackles again. So that happened quite a bit, a few times, with, different teams, of course.
So take me through the mindset of you having to make a tackle. Was it, I got to make a tackle?
There is that split second of panic where you got to figure out, first of all, I ran a 4.8 on a good day. Most of those guys are 4.2, 4.3, 4.4 on a bad day for them. So once you kind of see, the clouds break and you see this guy coming through, then you have to quickly decide, can I at least pin him down on the sideline? Can I get an angle to get him out? Or can I get him pushed back into play where I've got help? Or, make a complete disaster of it, which I've done a few times, where it's just like, it looked like I gave him a high five, like he was that bad. So there's all these thoughts are going through your mind. And, being a soccer player, I wasn't that great of a tackler, certainly not in a traditional manner. I would still get guys on the sideline, but nothing pretty, definitely nothing pretty.
And that was a different kind of tackling when you played soccer, by the way.
Yeah.
You'd probably get flagged if you tried to do that in the NFL. That's just my guess. What was it like for you? And I think I know what the locker room was set up like when you were there. Basically, it was special teams. And were you next to the quarterbacks in the locker room in the stadium?
Let's see. BB, Metzelaars, Chris Moore, of course, Tasker. trying to think. Of course, every year you'd have the odd change, right?
Yeah.
That's part of the business. But at that time, and then, well, they had Jim, and I'm trying to think, Andre, like, I don't know. It seemed, we seemed pretty much stuck with the offense.
Okay.
I guess you could say, yeah.
Okay. So I guess my question is, what was it like watching? I mean, it was probably pretty rare that you were the guy that reporters were in front of, I'm guessing. Most of the time they were in front of Jim or Andre or Thurman or Bruce or whoever. What was it like watching those guys? And were you at the time conscious of how good they were, that they were these all-time Hall of Fame greats?
I knew the first day at minicamp. I knew before that, just watching the Super Bowls, and again, regardless of the result, the fact that they had already gone to two, and just how these guys, they had that swagger about them. They had that confidence that every Sunday they're going to make somebody pay for something. Thurman had this attitude about him. He had that edge about him, and I think they all did. And then they just had this natural God-given ability. They had this talent, and they had the right mental approach to take advantage of it. And they, on Sunday, it was just a different deal. I mean, you just knew that you were with guys at a different level. I mean, really, that's how I would put it. Just a different level, different caliber of athlete.
And so my takeaway from that statement is that they, on game day, were at a completely different level from what they were during the week.
Yeah, and I have to say I was kind of guilty of that myself. I wasn't the best practice kicker either. It's not that I didn't care, but I didn't care as much during practice. I lived for Sunday, and I think that's, and the more I played in the league, the more that was definitely the case. And that's where maybe now that you bring up the point, Bull, it's like, these guys really got geared up for Sunday. I think the more you play, that's what it's all about. And the rest of the week is meetings and practice and whatever. I know it's necessary, but Sunday is what you live for as a pro. And then coming out of the locker room in Buffalo, that's it, man. I mean, that is it. As a pro athlete, it's, other than maybe the World Cup or the European Cup or whatever, man. There's so many games out there that are, special situations, but every Sunday coming out of the locker room in Buffalo was pretty sweet.
So let me ask you this, because it's been brought up a lot over the last 2 days. The fact that there are now fans in the stands, and it was a big sellout, and people, sold out now Highmark Stadium for the first time in 2 years, yada, yada, yada. And we lost. And some people are claiming, or putting it out there anyway, that maybe the Bills were better last year because they played in front of nobody. And that the fact that the crowd is there, maybe they made them nervous. Josh in particular made them nervous. They were used to it. What do you think about that when you hear that?
I've heard some hockey players, I think a couple of Lightning guys said that at one point, where they felt more pressure playing at home at times.
Wow.
And maybe there's some truth to that, especially when, Bills fans are, there's crazy fans around the league, but Bills fans are Bills fans. That's a different category. And to have them all back in the stands, and all the hype taking off from basically the Kansas City game last year,
yep,
and what happened in the Super Bowl. And I think, in a sense, for me, the fact that Tampa shut Kansas City down, I'm like, hey, we can do that too. So you kind of springboard this into, Allen getting better. Everybody's getting better. We're going to gel. We're going to be better. A lot of hype. And then when the guys come out and the fans are going, there's still a game to play. And I'm not saying that's what happened, but mentally, it is a different scenario than when you're coming out there and it's seagulls. That had to be bizarre for them.
Well, yeah, but it's like a scrimmage, like a practice game almost, right? I mean,
exactly.
Yeah.
And then on Monday, you're getting your paycheck, and you're like, oh yeah, we played yesterday. That had to be bizarre, just weird, right?
Right.
And then you have fans in the stands, and in a sense, I think reality kicked in for a lot of guys, and this is why the Miami game is now massive, because they've been building and building and building, and we go to the Miami game every year. So when the Bills come down, there's that whole section of the parking lot that's the royal blue, right? And then speckles of teal everywhere.
You're right. That's
and we've
right.
been running Miami for a number of years. but you'll notice that, the last year, games are getting closer, and Miami's getting better. They're getting better. And now, they're doing really well. And I think New England has a new quarterback. So that's playing well. So, I mean, this game is massive for us. Not only get on track, but it's division.
Yeah, for sure. What do you like all encompassing about the 2021 Bills?
Well, I think with Sean McDermott leading the way, we're going to learn from Sunday, take advantage of it, learn from it. And I was, hey, get mad, get ticked off a little bit about this. We expected to win that game. The fans expected to win the game. I'm sure everybody, that's affiliated with the Bills expected to win. We didn't get it. And so fine, take that edge about you, take that disappointment and lay it on Miami. What a better team to play.
Yeah.
After a disappointing loss, let's bring it to them.
Yep.
Let's bring it to them.
Yeah, against a hated divisional rival, no doubt about it. And obviously with the win, you would tie for the division lead if you were to beat Miami. So it is a huge, massive, massive game for the Bills. Lastly, before I let you go, what are you most excited about aside from the concert and our big watch party and all that? What are you most excited about seeing or doing when you come back to Western New York this weekend?
Well, I just, I really want to see some of these bands that I've never seen. I really want to get, a good look at some of the different, you mentioned a number of different genres, and I really want to try to check out as many bands as I possibly can. And you notice with the setup, bands, they're sort of staggered, so you can do that. You can really check out your bands, and that's why I love music festivals. You can jump from stage to stage to stage, and I have a few funny stories where I've been left at certain stages for various reasons, but that's another story. We'll take that up another time. But I love the fact that you can see so many bands over the course of a couple of days, and that's what I'm really excited about.
Are you a bar bill guy, or like, is there any restaurants that are still around that you would partake maybe in?
Well, yes, I've been there. I was love Duff's too, but we have actually changed our diet quite a bit. My wife had a little bit of a health scare last month, so we're right now we've gone plant-based, and it's been about a month. So it's not been easy for those of us who grew up eating, Canadian beef and poutine with meat and everything else and whatever. But anyway, we've changed our diet considerably. So I think this will be the first time I've been in Buffalo and have not enjoyed a plate of certainly chicken wings.
I'd love to be able to tell you where to get some good kale, but I can't do that. I'm sorry. I just don't know.
I'm not even going to the kale route. There's other things out there that are actually edible, but we're still trying to find out which ones are good and which ones are not.
It's so good.
So, yeah, we're still learning on that one.
Which ones are edible? Oh man, if they could wipe kale off the planet, I'd be very happy, man. Because people try and force kale on me, I'm like, come on, man. I need something that is like the next to lettuce probably is the least flavorful thing I think that's ever been produced on this planet.
Somebody described it as hairy spinach. So why was this ever it took off for a while? Everyone's cooking, kale chips and all this, and we tried it. Not this time. We tried it when it first came out. And it's like, no, I'm good. Just give me chips.
Yeah, please. Yeah. Well, with apologies to you kale lovers out there, we're not fans. Hey, I look forward to seeing you up here this weekend, man. Thanks for doing this, and safe travels up. It's going to be a blast, man. Can't wait to see you.
Can't wait to see you Sunday. Look forward to it. Go Bills.
All right, pal. BorderlandFestival.com. Steve Christie, me, bands, Bills, beer, distilleries, food, vendors. It's going to be awesome. Hopefully we see all of you there. Thanks, man, again.